I see that Ms. Jones is here. Welcome, Ms. Jones. Glad to have you here tonight.
Hi there.
And Mr. Lewis, thanks a lot for being here this evening. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we're going to probably try to stay pretty close to our on-time schedule tonight. For a lot of you, a year ago at this time, we hosted all of the state candidates, representatives, and senators. We had 14 speakers, and it went really well. Everybody was very well behaved. We stayed right on time, and we learned a lot, and we really were excited to try this again. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start the meeting at 6:30, and I really don't need a full 10 minutes, but I'll try to fill in the time. And I'm going to, Melissa Sanchez from the Albuquerque Westside Business Association may want to also welcome you and talk just a little bit about how lucky we are that we've been able to work together on this. So the Westside Coalition is a coalition of neighborhood associations. And we find that we have a lot of things in together that we are concerned about and want to achieve on the West Side. And we really want to have a working partnership with our city and state officers, particularly our city councilors and our mayor. So we're really glad to have you here tonight. I'm sure that you realize that probably the biggest culmination of work that we had done for almost 3 years was the purchase of the pool property, and we are still celebrating that. So we're just really glad, that we have done that, and we're kind of excited to see the next step with that. We hope that we can be helpful partners and not just concerned partners. And we feel really, really strongly about neighbors having an opportunity to participate in every single area of city government. We don't just want to be volunteers. We want to be active participants. And we appreciate those of you who are willing to make that possible for that to happen. So that being said, we do have candidates, mayoral candidates. We have District 1, Council District 1 candidates. We have candidates from Council District 5, and we are really glad to hear from our APS board delegates tonight, because we are all really interested in maintaining an active role in our schools. So that being said, Melissa, would you like to give a few words of welcome?
Yes, well, I want to thank you, Kathy, for including us in.
Because it's my.
I want to put it. For including us, and I'm really happy for this partnership. I think it's important that not only neighborhoods, but the businesses on the West Side also are included in hearing what the candidates have to say. It is an important year for those of us here on the West Side. So we are happy to offer our service and live stream it so we can reach, an audience, a broad audience, and hopefully give all the candidates an opportunity to have their voices heard. So thank you again.
Yeah. So we hope that you all got our list of, I don't want to say concerns, but our areas of primary interest and our concerns about what's happening on the West Side of Albuquerque. We do not want to be a commuter community. And right now that seems to be a lot of what is being sensed by us, is that we are just commuters into the Maine of Albuquerque. We want to be active participants, and we want the unique characteristics of the West Side to be honored, respected, protected, enjoyed by everyone. So that's kind of a big deal for us. And I think that you will be speaking about it off and on this evening. So that being said, I think we're just going to wait a few minutes. We have a few minutes to wait until hopefully Mr. Aragon will sign on. But if he doesn't, I don't know what we'll do. We'll think about that. Somebody from his campaign is here, but I'm typing a message right now. I think those of us who are panelists can see that right now we do have 32 attendees in the Zoom. So hello, Miss tell me if I'm saying your name correctly, Miss O'Heary.
Okay, yeah, I'm just logging in. Give me a few minutes. Yes,
Okay.
O'Heary is right. Thank you.
Oh,
Can
good.
you hear me?
I can.
Oh, thank you.
Great. So we are going to ask for those of you who are not speaking to mute yourselves. You'll be able to hear the speaker. And Mr. Aragon, glad that you made it. Really appreciate it.
I had the wrong link. I apologize for that.
Okay. Well, you know, you're probably going to go to Zoom, Zoom something. You would be punished in good time by Zoom, I'm sure.
No problem.
Yeah. So
can you hear me? Can you see me?
we certainly can. And right now,
Okay.
we don't have your video streaming, but we do see your wonderful screen name. And I'm going to wait. I'm going to stay right on at, we've got like 3 more minutes before.
How's that? Can you see me now?
Yep, we sure can.
Okay, great.
Great. So we will stay right on schedule. I will officially tell you to start talking at 6:40 so that we can keep, and I can give you a warning. I can, wave my hand or something to let you know that you've got, another 30 seconds or something if you're having a hard time keeping track of your time. And then I will stop you when your 7 minutes are up. We're just going to try real hard. This format has worked really well for us in the past. So, okay, great. So I don't know if you heard me, Mr. Aragon, but I did speak a little bit about, why the West Side Coalition feels like we play a pretty important role for our neighbor organizations and for non-neighbor organizations who call upon us for, to help represent them, to get information to them. And so, we feel like we're a pretty vital part of the West Side, have been and will continue to be play a pretty important role in
Absolutely.
In the
Absolutely.
West Side. So
I heard all of it. I was just on another link. I apologize.
okay. All right, great. I think it looks like we have everybody here tonight. So that's really good. And at the, when, I am gonna see if I can type another message in here.
We all ready to go? It's 6:39.
We're getting really close here. Where are you right now, Mr. Aragon?
Downtown.
Oh, okay.
I'm going back into a fundraiser here shortly, so I
Okay.
apologize.
Okay. All right, so you're up, Mr. Aragon, and you've got 7 minutes to speak.
Hey, thanks everybody for having me. I'm Eddie Aragon. I'm running for mayor of Albuquerque because I'm tired of people talking about the city that I love in a bad way. I'm tired of people leaving for lack of opportunity. I'm tired of crime and homelessness and vandalism and panhandling, pushing away companies and families and entertainment venues that would otherwise love to make New Mexico their home. I'm tired of seeing despair and poverty on the streets and lofty political promises of prosperity on the news. Talking about these issues with callers on my radio show every night, I realize there are a lot of people out there who are just as tired of the constant bad news as I am. News about being ranked the worst place to live or having the highest unemployment rate. News about our record homicide rate, 97, or being last in education. So I decided to do something about it. I decided to take my message straight to the people and ask them if they'll help me fight for the 505. My message isn't complicated, but it's a stark contrast to what we've seen from city leaders these past 4 years. It starts with what I call the 5 C's. Number 1 is corruption. Mayor Tim Keller is in there at City Hall making development deals and creating new departments to pad the pockets of his friends, spending hundreds of millions of your taxpayer dollars on facilities and programs that have failed to provide any noticeable return on investment. Crime is even worse. Homelessness is worse. Commerce is worse. And yet he throws more and more money, your money, taxpayer money, at problems that only get worse. Now Tim Keller is trying to convince the voters to give him another $50 million to build a soccer stadium where he can't fill the one he has. If it's not outright grift, it's complete and total incompetence. The second C is commerce. We can't thrive as a city without industry, without small businesses, and without policies and practices at the city that opens the door to local development. As a top-ranked commercial real estate agent, I bring the experience to make Albuquerque an attractive place to develop property, and I have a work ethic to dig into each department and cut the red tape that's keeping our city from growing. The third C, that's the city. We need a mayor who runs Albuquerque like they love it, and I do. Too often, politicians get into office for the power, the clout, the publicity of the big show, and it doesn't really matter what they do with their time in office. I want to be mayor not because I like politics. I actually hate politics. I'm doing it because I love this city and I want to see it succeed. As mayor, I'll post my campaign promises on the city's website and send regular updates to media to make sure I'm held accountable. Here's a promise. If I fail, I won't run again. If homicides aren't halved by the end of my first term, I won't run again. If homelessness isn't 75% lower, I won't run again. I'll own it and I'll pass the reins to someone who can do a better job because that's all I want from City Hall. Leadership you can see when you walk down the street, not just leadership you read about in the papers. The fourth C is COVID. We've run this experiment long enough, ladies and gentlemen, and it's time to let people to get back to work. No capacity limits, no masks, no COVID vaccines if you choose, no lockdowns or pulling health permits of businesses who don't force patrons to wear a mask from the door to the table. This is nonsense. And it's time Albuquerque had a leader who stood up to the harmful policies coming out of the governor's office. Everyone, and I mean everyone, should have their freedom to wear a mask or get a vaccine if they so choose. But for the future of our children and businesses, Albuquerque needs to resist the mandates. The final C, that's the big one. It's crime. Now, you'd think that a politician who'd seen a continuous increase in crime over the first 4 years of his tenure would change course or propose a new strategy. Not Tim Keller. He's not that smart. Despite it being his quote unquote #1 priority, when he ran in 2017, Keller has been unable to staff the Albuquerque Police Department. Morale has never been lower. Resignations and retirements have never been higher. And he can't get enough people into the academy to replace the people he is losing. So what does Canny Keller do? He doubles down on his current strategy, hoping that somehow he'll be able to boost recruitment numbers by talking about how quote unquote racist Albuquerque is. You can't solve crime without police, including detectives, gang units, property crime units, and you can't hire police in the most violent city in the state without incentives. I'll make APD officers the highest paid of any city police in the entire state. I'll offer them signing bonuses. I'll reduce overtime to improve morale and relieve some of the pressure of working on an already highly stressful job, and I'll have their back. We are nothing if we are not safe. Our children, our schools, our businesses, shopping, dining out, driving to work, everything we do in a society is directly affected by how dangerous our city is. That's why I promised to reallocate $50 million in existing funds. No, not new taxes. No, not new bonds, but existing revenue. I found it to give the APD the boost it needs to attract quality talent. These are my priorities. I'm doing something neither of my competitors would dare to do. I'm tying my entire first term to whether or not I can accomplish these goals I've set out before you this evening, and promising to step down after one term if I come up short. I'm not in this for politics, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not in it for power or prestige or publicity. That's not what civic duty is about. It's about contributing to the city you love and leaving it better than you found it. As I said, when I first launched this campaign, I realized that the mayor's office is a dead-end political job. And that's perfect for me because I have no political ambitions. I just want to live in a better city. Don't you? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aragon. I am going to tell you, and excuse me, somebody just typed something of a political nature into the chat box. And so I'm going to ask really specifically that you not do that. You can always send a message to a candidate on their website or to their email. We would prefer not to have those in our chat box this evening. Mr. Aragon, your photo was not appearing on the YouTube video, and I just want to make sure that that you know that so that maybe you can do something about it. I think you are going to be leaving, so it probably won't matter. So
thank you very much for the time.
Okay, if anybody has any questions that they are concerned about, you are absolutely welcome to send those questions to Mr. Aragon, and Mr. Aragon can send information to the West Side Coalition and I will publish it. So, and that's available to all you participants and all of the attendees. If you have questions, you are absolutely welcome to make those questions known, and you can get them to the candidates on their websites. The candidates can get back to the West Side Coalition, and we will publish that information on abqwestside.com. I think that's really important that we have that available to people, so that if you feel like there are things that you're not hearing, you can certainly ask specifically. We do have a quick message. Oh, you know what? We do have a message in the chat box about the pool property, and thanks to Becky Davis, is that because we are still trying to support financially, we're trying to support. Oh, Manny, I'm using your time. I just started it. I'm going to give you a full 7 minutes, and you may go. Whoops, we don't have your audio, Mr. Gonzalez. Do you unmute yourself?
Can you hear me now?
We can hear
Can
you.
you hear me well?
You're a little bit low.
Okay, I'll speak up then.
Okay.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm Manny Gonzalez, the current Bernalillo County Sheriff. And I just wanted to tell everybody a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Albuquerque, but I actually live on the west side. So I've raised my family on that side of town. I've been over there for 24 years. You know, I was taught, you know, by my parents to work hard and also provide service to other people. I want to let people know that after I graduated from high school, I joined the United States Marine Corps and I served there honorably. But I also want people to know a little bit more about me because I also have 20 years of actual business experience. So I know what it takes to run a business. I've been serving the community in law enforcement since 1989, and I have almost 30 years of law enforcement experience. I'm running for mayor for two major reasons. Number one, crime. Number two, homelessness. I think, and I know Albuquerque deserves better. I've seen over the last 4 years, the quality of life has diminished for a lot of people that live in Albuquerque, and you're starting to see families leave, and it's starting to knock the bottom out of our economy. We're facing many challenges, but I know there's a brighter future for Albuquerque. And I have the courage, have the experience, have the support, and have the relationships personally, professionally, and politically to move Albuquerque in the right direction. The first topic I want to talk about is crime. And the only way we're going to get our arms around crime is to end sanctuary cities for illegal immigrants who commit crimes. We also need to end the catch and release policies that they currently have in place. We need to allow police officers to do their jobs again and enforce all the laws of the state of New Mexico and uphold the Constitution. We need to get more officers in the street and not having them investigate their own police officers. The thing that I think is one of the most important things is for people to know that they have a list of non-arrest. There's 22 crimes that the Albuquerque Police Department does not enforce right now. We enforce all of them in Bernalillo County. And crime is down in two areas, violent crime and property crimes. Our homicides have gone down, our violent crimes have gone down, and so have our property crimes. The only reason the mayor will state that the crime is going up in Bernalillo County because Albuquerque is included in Bernalillo County. So then he has knocked the ceiling off that. What we're going to do is attract and retain the best police officers. We've done it at the Sheriff's Department, and Albuquerque deserves the same. We're going to depoliticize the police department because that's why violent crime is going up in other parts of the country because you have very liberal politicians. Number two, homelessness. We need to get homeless off the streets and into homes. We need to identify those people through a screening process. Those are people in crisis. We need to make sure those individuals get the help they need with mental health services and or substance abuse treatment facilities. They need to have services and wraparound services to provide them to be successful and to be either good, productive citizens, and or we need to reconnect them to their communities and their families. That's not being done right now. And we also need to hold people accountable that are making choices to live in the streets. Not everybody that is homeless is in a situation where they don't have a home. They're choosing to live there a drug addicted life. Unfortunately, the policies of this current mayor are attracting homelessness here by giving them vouchers. I believe that leads into my third topic, which is jobs. I want to incentivize and give vouchers to businesses. We need to incentivize young entrepreneurs here in Albuquerque. We need to create jobs because I have the business experience and our children are leaving this community. I had a family-owned business. I know what it takes to create jobs. City Hall makes it very difficult to do business here. And I want to incentivize doing business for local businesses. I want to cut the red tape. I want to streamline some of the regulations. I want to build out the technology infrastructure that it takes a 21st century city to move forward. And that means we will build out cloud-based, web-based, kiosk-based services for this generation so they'll be successful. This is what I'll leave you with. I have a lifetime of service to law enforcement, and I also love this community. I love my family. I love the people of this community. And that's why I've chosen and made sacrifices to hold public office. And I also said 10 years ago, if I was successful in public office, if the public wanted to see me serve them, then I would do so. I'm willing to make those sacrifices for my family. I'm not a politician. If you want a slick speaking politician, then you vote for the other person. I have a lifetime of success in business and in public office. I want to create that same success for the city of Albuquerque because the people deserve much better. And I know that I will surround myself with the right people to bring Albuquerque and restore it as a crown jewel of the Southwest. I appreciate you having me. I just want to reiterate that Albuquerque has 4 times the violent crime rate, and it's unacceptable. And we don't have that issue in Bernalillo County. But I'm asking for you today, that for all the people that are listening, for your vote, your support, make sure you get out and vote. And I'd like to thank your staff, and I'm going to say your forum, for providing me the opportunity to hear my message. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate your time, Mr. Gonzalez. Thanks a lot for being here. So, so you have a couple more seconds if you want. There's something else that you want to say. You still have some time on the clock here. Okay, so looks like, so I'm going to speak real quickly. I'm going to go back to our comment about the pool property. We are still really working hard to offer financial support to this project. And so if you want to open, the pool property is open for free will donations, because we do want to set up programs for the property. So, you know, just kind of put that on your list of interest. That's something that you may be really wanting to look at. I am noticing, the candidate Patrick Size, you are signed in twice, and I don't really know why you're signed in twice, but for right now, we're just going to give you a chance to speak in just a few minutes when it's your time. I'm trying to think of some of the other things that the Westside Coalition is working on right now. Next month, we are going to take the time to share some of our fondest memories about Dr. Joe Vias. And so if you are interested in coming to that meeting and sharing a story or just listening, you certainly are welcome to contact me and ask for an invitation. It's kind of going to be a special time for us. So, you know, consider that that's something that you might be able to do. So, Mr. Size, it is your turn to speak. You may unmute. You can start your video so that we can see you, and you can go. There you are.
Hi, thank you for inviting me to your platform tonight. Well, my name is Patrick Benjamin Size. I was raised and born here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. The crime, you know, my thing is the crime is out of control here in Albuquerque. The homeless is out of control here in Albuquerque. These candidates, well, Mayor Keller has admitted to homelessness increasing by 3,000 people. You know, these guys say they want to help the homeless and they want to help everybody, but I never see them out on the grounds just like me. I'm out there knocking on doors, I'm talking, I'm listening to people from the south to the north, to the west, to the east, from morning to night. I do listen to people. And see, the problem is nobody wants to work with each other. We all need to work with each other. My programs for crime is exactly like these other guys. We need to put more police on the ground, better pay, better incentives. Small businesses, we need to focus interior in small businesses, the growth that made our economy. You know, right now the economy is in a turmoil. We don't even know in the top levels if we're going to be able to pay our bills up there. So, you know, to focus on big companies coming in, it's a great thing. It's good. But we need to focus on local businesses, support our local businesses, give them tax incentives so they can become bigger and better companies. Growth within, they hire more people. There's the veterans, senior citizens, and disabled in Albuquerque. I'm disabled myself. I see a lot of sidewalks and buildings and facilities that don't even, they are not even up to par. There's even right there another downtown, the convention center. When you move from City Hall to get onto the convention center, you have to travel through the street, which is dangerous against traffic if you're in a wheelchair. That's, it's not right for people to be suffering like that. All the lies that come out from these candidates, people are tired of it. We heard one person bash somebody, the other one refrained. I think people are tired of that. Why do we have to treat people like that? We have to work with each other. My platform has always been the same since May. You go back, you look, law and order, small business, veterans, senior citizens, and disabled. I want to bring back trade programs. I want to bring back mental health programs. I want to get rid of these 24-hour mental health programs that you put in 24 hours out, you're back in the same situation. Some of these guys get the medicine in clinic, but then if they get medicine out clinic, how are they going to pay for it? These programs are made very hard for these people. So we need to work together as a community or as a city. And I always say we. You'll never hear me say I or me, because it's not me or I. It's not about who runs or who's sitting in the mayor's office, because what it belongs to is the people of Albuquerque. And it's a we problem. We all need to work together. I go into communities and I talk to people. My thing is, if you go in there with the police force, you clean up and you talk with the landlords, homeowners. Eventually you bring small businesses in there. Those communities become prideful. They become more safer, and everybody moves forward. Where I live in the west side, and I see a lot of growth over here, especially over there near the high school. There's apartments going up. There's lots of land. We just need to all work together to move forward. So once again, my name is Patrick Benjamin Seiss. Once again, I'm not a politician. I'm a businessman. I've 24 years in business. So if you have any questions, hit me up on my email address, Seiss for abqmayor @gmail.com. Be free to answer anything. I'm not afraid to answer anything. Once again, my name is Patrick Benjamin Seiss, candidate write-in mayor for Albuquerque. I'll be a write-in candidate. Once again, you guys have a great and safe evening. God bless you all.
Mr. Seiss, you actually have another minute and a half if you want to address any of the topics that we sent you. We sure appreciate your positive attitude. So if you want to use the last minute of your time, feel welcome to do so. Okay, so we've got a little bit of extra time here. And I am going to use that time to welcome, specifically, I'm going to welcome Joy Garrett, who is one of our West Side representatives up in Santa Fe. And also Harold Pope is with us this evening. And so we really, I'm sure there are other people that I haven't checked, but we sure appreciate the fact that that our politicians are actively engaging with us. They take the opportunities to speak with us. They take the opportunity to attend our meetings, and we really, really appreciate it. We can always invite any of you who would like to attend coalition meetings. I will comment to you that our Northwest Area Command, a representative from our Northwest Area Command is here tonight. They have been a really positive influence in the West Side Coalition neighborhood. They come to our meetings, they answer our questions, and they have meetings. You know, the citizen the citizen council that meets every month. And so we thank them for being here tonight too. It's an important step forward that once again, that we all work together. We really do all want the same thing. We just have to figure out how we can work together to get there. So we're getting pretty close. We're going to give our last mayoral candidate time to speak. And like I said, all you have to do as candidates, if you would like to attend future meetings, you're welcome. So Mayor Keller, the floor is yours, and you have 7 minutes to speak.
So much. Well, good evening, everybody. And Kathy, just a quick, tell me thumbs up if you can hear me.
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, great. All right. So I think tonight we've heard a lot of different things, and I do want to appreciate the last candidates, just noting that we're all in this together. And I always view the administration as a team. I just happen to speak for them on situations like this. But I want to go through with some of the things that I think weren't talked about tonight. I think it's pretty clear what our challenges are, right? We know it's crime and homelessness, among other things. And there was a lot of talk about that aspect of what's going on in our city. But to me, we've got to talk about solutions. And also, I want to talk about the West Side specifically, because that was pretty clear in the guidance that that's what you wanted to hear about. So let me begin by first stating, it was 4 years ago that this community trusted me to tackle our problems head on and to try and deal with root causes, not just one-off pilot programs or not over-promising with some one-off idea that's going to fix all our challenges. And I think we've honored that in the fact that we have tried to address systematic change, and we built a foundation to deal with crime and to deal with public safety and to deal with homelessness. But we've got a long ways to go, and we've got to build on that foundation. And that's why it's so important that our city gives our team another chance for another 4 years to see these through. So let me talk about some of these. First of all, when it comes to public safety, our police department, we have been able to hire 400 new officers, and thank goodness we did, because we know we've seen a lot of retirements, but they're aging out and they are leaving for other reasons too. That's certainly true. But the good news is that we got 400 new in, and we are doing great when it comes to our academy classes. We've got another 50 coming out in just a month. And so we're replenishing the ranks as fast as we can, and we're doing it at a faster rate than people are leaving. That's really important, and that's the opposite of what's happening for the last 10 years. Also, I want folks to know that we are in the middle of a DOJ reform process, and that reform process is governed by a judge. There are some things a mayor can try and do, or a police chief, but all of it has to be approved by a judge. And all of it is also for a good reason. So when it comes to crime fighting, we're doing a couple of things. Number one, we're also investing in crime fighting technology, $80 million in radio systems so our officers can actually talk to each other and other entities. Also in things like gunshot detection software, and even adding radar back in our cars and getting speed vans out on the street. These are things that we desperately need to do. But I also convened the Metro Crime Initiative, and that was a collaboration between our DA, our district attorney, and actually every law enforcement entity in the metro area, except the sheriff. He was the only one who didn't attend. We met for 5 weeks and 5 sessions, and we came up with specific ideas to stop the revolving door and also to crack down on gun violence. And so you see that coming out, whether it's legislative changes or things we're doing at council. You see our legislators working on that, including some who are joining us tonight. That to me is an example of leadership when it comes to public safety. Now, the other one is also understanding that we are trying to do the basics with respect to reform. We have to do reform for the right reasons. We created the superintendent position of reform. That is critical that we keep that. And that has now enabled us to push forward on a lot of the ideas that you brought up and some of the questions that were coming in advance. So I want you to know that in Albuquerque, we have already done things like banning chokeholds and limiting military type equipment and all the things actually that were listed, by the way, we have accomplished. And I think that's a good thing. We've got a long ways to go, but it's also really important that we understand crime is high in Albuquerque and it's high in the county. So I think this is where I just want to debunk some myths that we heard earlier. There's an Albuquerque Journal story talking about crime explicitly in the county being higher than the city, and it's true. And so you can just read that article to see the details. Our property crime in the city is actually down, and our total crime numbers are down. But we have so much longer to go because violent crime is happening post-pandemic all over the country. This was the worst year for violent crime in the United States of America on record. That's coming from the FBI. So we're not immune to that. That's why we've got to keep doing these things. But I also think it's really important that we acknowledge the world that we're living in. And homelessness is very similar. Homelessness is up all over the country in the pandemic, coming out of the pandemic. And during the pandemic, we housed 700 people in hotels all around our city. We opened up our West Side shelter. We've got 300 families living there now. But the issue is there's nowhere for folks to go to get the help they need 24/7. And that's why, with taxpayers' approval, I bought the old Loveless, the Gibson Medical Center, and I'm making it the gateway so that people have somewhere to go, a bed, a shower, and they can actually get access to housing vouchers and to job training and to detox and behavioral health. We have to have the Gateway Center, or we're not going to see any difference in homelessness in our city. Now, I want to quickly mention we've gone from the bottom of the list on sustainability and climate change to near the top. We are tied for second in terms of solar cities in America. That's awesome. Also, our economy is doing better than the cities around us. And as you know, we actually have a workforce shortage because the economy is doing so well. So I think our leadership has proven it's battle tested during the pandemic, and we're coming out of this stronger than we were going in. And we built a foundation to deal with our biggest issues in the future. But let me talk a little bit about the West Side really quick. Here's what we're doing on the West Side, because I also believe the West Side is part of the one Albuquerque community, and it should not be a commuter community. And that's why we have bike patrols on the West Side for the first time ever. We have gunshot detection software on the West Side that's expanding, that is drastically going to help with violent crime. We're also, thanks to council, they passed my bill to do speed bans. So finally, we're going to crack down on speeding on Coors, on Montano, and on Unser. And also, we're doing things like investing in traffic. You see the widening of West Side Boulevard, long overweighted. That one's going to be done soon. And you see us now in the planning phases for expanding Paseo del Norte. And we're doing placement. If you go to Nuevo Atrisco at Central and Unser, you see now supportive housing. You see a new plaza that's going to be a place for small businesses and entrepreneurs. And you also see things like Electric Playhouse popping up on the West Side and family activities. And you see our parks getting new drinking fountains and new play spaces. And so this is part of how we are investing in the West Side. So I want to let you know that I'm going to continue what we've been doing, and that includes the pool
Mr.
property.
Keller, your time is up, and
All right.
thank
We'll
you
see you
very
next
much.
time.
Thank you to all of the mayoral candidates tonight. And I think we heard some stuff that is going to help us decide how we're going to vote. And, you know, I meant to check earlier today exactly when our West Side, when the West Side voting locations, the early voting locations will be open. I believe it's after the 16th, but I'm not positive. You can look at abqwestside.com. That's a news website for the West Side, and you can look at that. And I'm sure that they will be advertising when our West Side, our early voting locations will be open. Please encourage everyone you know to start. And thank you, Mr. Sanchez, our first candidate for Council District 1. It's your time to speak.
Hi, Kathy. How are you doing today? Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. I enjoyed walking the pool property the other day. It was really a neat experience for me. I actually had a blast. We walked the entire property from one corner to the other, and I had the good fortune to be able to be and actually walk the pool property and go inside the house before it burned down. So what a neat experience. And I did that. I had that experience as a police officer, young officer patrolling the West Side. But getting on with this, my name is Luis Sanchez. I'm running for City Council in District 1. I was born and raised on the West Side, born and raised in District 1. I attended Lavalin, John Adams, West Mesa High School, which is right in District 1, and also public schools. I'm a 26-year veteran of the Albuquerque Police Department, where I rose through the ranks. And when I left, I was acting commander of the Foothill Substation with the hard rank of lieutenant. I run a successful all-state insurance agency in District 1 as well. I could have actually chose any location within Albuquerque or the state of New Mexico to open my business, and I chose to open my business right where my roots are. Very well rooted in the community. My family was my family was raised in Albuquerque's West Side and in District 1. My cousins, my family, my friends, all of the alums that I went to high school with are all in District 1. I'm now I'm a business owner, able to give back. One of the things that I'm most proud of is that I'm able to give back to the community in the form of scholarships. So I usually give a scholarship to a high school senior every year, and it's usually a Hispanic West Side senior. And I'm really proud of the fact that I've been able to do that. As we all know, in Albuquerque, crime is our biggest issue, and it faces all of us on the West Side, not only District 1. I deal with the crime issues every single day as I look out my front door of my Allstate insurance office, which is on Central at 60th Street. And I have noticed the fact that there's an increase in crime along the area, the corridor. I know that just recently I dialed 911 because I watched an individual who was either a human trafficker or actually a pimp and a prostitute, and the female was getting beat up. I dialed 911, and the first thing that I heard was, "Please don't hang up. This is 911. We will get to you as soon as we can." And that went on for several minutes. I'm going to say until the couple walked their way down out of my sight, and nothing happened. And I still didn't get through. I hung up the phone, and then 5 minutes later, I got a call back, and someone told me that, and 911 advised, "What's your emergency?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know if it's an emergency anymore. I never got the call." Also, I've made calls in reference to property crimes, and basically I gave up. I'm wondering if the property crime issue is if we're down in property crimes because they're not being reported. I think the people are giving up on the police department and not reporting it. Another thing that's going on at APD is the officers are demoralized and leaving in droves. We need to do exit interviews to see why the officers are leaving. I've actually been able to do a few exit interviews with some of the officers, and I noticed that they're afraid of being disciplined for just doing their jobs. APD officers have a massive administrative burden now. And based on that massive administrative burden, we need to do some sort of a study to determine how much time an officer needs to spend on each call. We don't know that for sure. My guess is we probably need somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,500 officers to actually service our community the way it needs to be serviced. 5 officers in your area right now on the West Side tonight is not enough. And if we don't deal with this immediately, we're going to continue to have an even worse crime problem. Homicide rate right now is approaching 130. I mean, it will approach 130 if you do the average as in reference to where we're at right now. As a city councilor, city council can pressure the mayor, can pressure the courts to enforce the quality of life issues, which APD is not enforcing right now, such as criminal trespass, shoplifting, human trafficking. And I was witness to that right in front of my office. This needs to happen immediately to let the criminals know that we won't tolerate these situations. I honestly believe that sending a social worker to a 911 call without a police officer is a recipe for disaster. You have to remember, I work the streets and I know what a 911 call entails. When people call 911, they expect the police officers and their presence to de-escalate that situation. The officers have the presence and the tools necessary to change that behavior immediately and can arrest if the situation it warrants it. I pray for the safety of the civilians that are going to be answering 911 calls. I don't think it's a good idea. Also, since DOJ, our officers and residents have paid a horrific price. The crime has just skyrocketed. You can't even walk into, I can't tell you how many stories that I've heard of individuals who work at stores or have been in stores and immediately shoplift hundreds of dollars worth of stuff. And so I just want to make sure that the officer's presence is changed. We need to make sure that DOJ mandates don't put officers in danger, and make sure that we work with the DOJ to come up with a successful conclusion and stop moving the goalposts. Also, dealing with homelessness, I deal with that every single day in both of my offices, and it affects us all. And one of the things that I've noticed as being a police officer is homeless is the most victimized segment of our population. Every day there's unreported crimes in this.
Mr. Sanchez, your time is up now.
Okay.
Thanks so much for being here, and
All right. Thank you.
really appreciate your time. So, and we're going to wait a minute. If you will check the chat box, we have had some really good information come in that is going to be real specific about early voting and the absentee voting. There is a location on Lomas that is called early absentee voting that you can go to, but I believe our local early voting locations here on the west side will begin on October 16th. So Councilor Sena, take the floor, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Kathy, and thank you for Wisconsin and Albuquerque West Side Business Association for having this forum. I just want to say thank you, because having started really in policy and on the West Side at Wisconsin as the president of the West Bluff Neighborhood Association, working alongside Dr. Joe, and it's partly what got me in trouble when it came to the pool property, having to recuse myself because I was one of the signed on neighborhoods that protested the development of the pool property. And that's why I'm really proud to say that we got that job done and secured and protected the pool property. And it's also why we're looking to also name and honor Dr. Joe at the pool property. And we'll continue to have those conversations as those community input sessions are ongoing. I want to just say that for those that don't know me, I am your current city councilor, Lance Sena, for District 1. I was born and raised here in Albuquerque, even being baptized on the west side at a church that my grandma and my family helped build off of Gonzalez and Coors, which is now, I think it's a church, a charter school. I think that really it takes all of us as a community, just like Wisconsin has done when it comes to putting in our work as to how we develop on the west side. And it's why I'm really proud to say that even though oftentimes we have a lot of division where we've gone to the moon and back and yet can't cross the street to talk to our neighbor, it's not so true when it comes to the west side, as many of us know each other. And I've been in many of your homes and just want to say thank you. But that doesn't mean that that's the sentiment of us all. And it's really what we're seeing now as we're seeing crime increase on the west side. But I think that, and overall city, but I think that really when we get at the heart of the issue and hear out people's frustrations, and as I talk to neighbors, that frustration really plays out. And for me, it's understanding and knowing that we are trying to address issues the same way over and over again, expecting different results. And I think that now we're really turning that tide by addressing the root causes: poverty, addiction, homelessness, mental and behavioral health issues. And I think that's why I was really proud to champion the community safety department, having dispatch actually understand the call, because they are professionals. It's why I sat next to them early this afternoon, hearing those that are calling into 911 or 242 cops, and actually seeing dispatch call our community safety department, go out to folks that were unsheltered on the side of the road, to have them respond to it, rather than allocating our officers, which I think we need to have them focus more on the violent crime. But it was the professionals at dispatch that knew that it was a social worker and a mental and behavioral health worker and professional that needed to respond to those calls. But that doesn't mean that it wouldn't go hand in hand should that call arise. And so I think that if we get to the real heart of the issue and the root of the issues, that's how we won't see a lot of these issues play out over and over and feel these frustrations within our community. And, I want to also address some of the other questions that was brought up and sent to the council candidates, whether it's the economy, really that through COVID, it has been tough. And sometimes we see a lot of the issues play out because of people's desperations. But for me, I'm really proud to have allocated CARES money. Over $10 million was allocated specifically for business grants for our community members when it came to those that didn't qualify for our stimulus. And then for the American Rescue Plan funds, that's also still continuing to this day, getting checks into the hands of business owners, our small business owners. But I wanted to see what else are we not doing, which is also investing in our communities. It's why I updated the minority business enterprise to allow our own small business folks to actually participate in the procurement process. It's why I championed the Pathways Through the Park, bringing City Hall into District 1 and actually allowing people to navigate the whole system and having us answer those questions. I believe in a grassroots process, and that's why I've done the work myself. I've committed to doing ride-alongs in every division, in every department. So far, I've mostly focused in our community safety, but that doesn't mean that I haven't done the work. When we talk about homelessness, it's also why I'm really doing the work myself, jumping on our buses, doing eviction prevention for many of our families who don't have cars, walking the food lines, and reaching out to folks to understand if they need mortgage assistance. It's also why I've committed my time serving at least once a month, going to our senior centers and serving them meals to understand what's going on. That's why I also, during the pandemic, also renovated our only senior center on the west side, because I knew that that investment was critical. But I also want to talk about, really, for me, being the youngest ever city councilor, it's how we keep our generation here. How do we have a diverse workforce that's also really pushing and supporting our working families? That's why it's so important to really connect both our trades programs into our after-school programs, and even working with our APS members to really push through that pathway, to have our trades connect into, and so that our businesses has a great workforce, and how we can support our community here on the west side. For me, it's really having to be an all hands on deck approach, whether it is community safety, supporting our police officers in multiple ways and a nuanced way to get to the root of the issues that we face. I believe that our community is worth fighting for, and I know that there's this darkness that we are really continuing to talk about. But for me, I have that rebellious hope, that whether it's West Side neighbors coming together, but our entire city coming together to really fight for who we love and what we love, which is our Albuquerque and our West Side. And so I know I'm coming up just a few seconds, but I just want to say thank you all again. And I so appreciate the time that I've served, really jumping into a difficult position, whether it was the passing of our late Councilor Sanchez or being thrown into the deep waters of COVID. So just thank you for that time.
Thank you for being so on time, Councilor Sena, and thanks to all of you who are really listening to the questions and concerns that we presented you with. This is our community, and we want the very best for it. Of course, we want the best for Albuquerque, but we're West Siders, and we want to stand up for what we have and what all of you have been working for. And you're all our neighbors, and that's kind of exciting too, is that you're our neighbors. So there was something else I was going to say and I can't remember, but it'll come to mind as soon as our next candidate speaks, but I won't interrupt him. I'll give him time. We are going to start with Council 5 now, and in just a minute, I will turn the floor over to Mr. Dan Lewis. You're going to have to wait just until my little timer goes off, Mr. Lewis, but thank you for being here. And you may go.
Well, Kathy, thank you. And thank you to the West Side Coalition. I had the privilege for 8 years of working along with you all. I recognize a lot of people that are attending tonight that I've worked on many projects with, and attended just about every meeting for 8 years with the coalition. So was honored to be able to work with you all and fight for the West Side. I was honored to be able to work with the late Councilor Sanchez for 8 years just an incredible friend of mine, along with Councilor Pena and others who really fought for the West Side, Joe Valles, and who really fought for the West Side. And we worked on some great projects together. I've raised my family on the west side of Albuquerque for 25 years. Both of my kids went to Cibola High School. They both went to University of New Mexico. I have a little grandson, he's 4 months old, who lives here on the west side as well, and we're absolutely obsessed with him. But I think about the many projects that we fought for on the west side of Albuquerque, whether it be I spearheaded the Paseo I-25 interchange. My first project on the city council was the Unser Boulevard extension. People forget that Unser Boulevard wasn't there just a short time ago. And we got that 3-mile extension done, a $6 million bill. We worked on a lot of projects. I funded really the West Side Boulevard that's actually being built now. I mean, we banked money for many years to be able to put toward that project, and it's happening now because we put a priority on that project. But we widened Universe Boulevard, and we installed countless fully signalized intersections. We built parks, and we also built medians and many projects that are so important. I had the privilege of leading the city of Albuquerque to purchase 15 acres of the North Cibola Loop property. And we had the plans, and we have the plans to build the next pool in the city of Albuquerque, the next multi-generational center, and the next library to be built on the west side of Albuquerque. And unfortunately, over the last 4 years, those projects have been put on the back burner and set aside. And the current city councilor are focusing more on allowing the housing department to actually propose more projects like low-income housing. And I know those neighborhoods in that area, those neighbors in that area are very frustrated because of that right now. So I'm running again because I want to get back and fight for the West Side. And I realize that if we don't have a strong voice that's fighting for these big projects on the West Side, if we don't have a strong voice, someone who's working for it hard, then we get the short end of the stick every single time. And that's why I want to be that voice for the west side of Albuquerque when it comes to neighborhood issues that I've worked with many on over the years, or when it comes to those big projects that really move the west side forward, bringing jobs to the west side of Albuquerque, and bringing good infrastructure to the west side of Albuquerque. I know how to get things done, and I want to see those projects move forward. And sadly, I just can't name any or really point to any big project like that that has been completed over the last 4 years. So I'm disappointed in that. I know that a lot of other people are as well. I'll use the remaining time to address some of the specific questions that you all have. I think some great questions on your questionnaire here that you sent to us. One of them has to do with homelessness. And one of the best organizations that I've ever seen and had the privilege of working with is Albuquerque Heading Home. And there was a time in the city that we put all of our efforts behind Albuquerque Heading Home because it brought together all of the homeless organizations and ministries to be able to provide for the needs of those who are chronically homeless in our community. We found just about every single one of them, and we're able to meet them, or match them up with needs that they have and people who could meet those needs. And so I believe that it's an approach like Albuquerque Heading Home that's really going to solve the homeless issue, in our city. And I want to double down and put the kind of resources behind that organization that it's important. I don't believe that a gateway center that's very limited on the amount of beds, 40 beds, I think, or very limited, but cost taxpayers so much money is really the solution to be able to solve the homeless issue. And by the way, the city of Albuquerque has more money than we've ever had before. Bigger budgets than we've ever had before, and yet more homelessness than we've ever had before, and more crime than we've ever had before. And so the problems are not the money. The problem is leadership, and we need good leadership to bring the solutions to these issues. And certainly, when it comes to the West Side, you had another question in here about ethics legislation, specifically as it has to do with local elected officials. And I had the privilege of crafting some legislation, ethics training legislation. And now in the city of Albuquerque, every elected official and every division leader and above has to complete ethics training. And I think that's an important and critical part of holding our leaders accountable, making sure they're accountable to those things. So I appreciate that question as well. You mentioned the IDO, and I think following national best practices is incredibly important, as well as making sure that our planning policies are fit the west side of Albuquerque, fit locally with the culture that we have and the great things that we have in this part of our city. And so working together with neighborhoods and working together with development, to make sure that we're protecting our neighborhoods and our community, as well as moving forward to ensure we have the kind of economic development, the kind of quality of life that we need on the west side of Albuquerque. There's also a question in here that I thought was great about police reform. And it was several years ago, that there was some specific issues in the Albuquerque Police Department. And I was one of those who agreed that at the time that we needed a DOJ investigation department to shine the light on the department and to allow the department to move forward with those reforms. Now we're about 6 years into a 4-year agreement with the DOJ, and there's new guidelines that the Attorney General, the United States Attorney General, put in place to limit the time for a consent decree, like we're under right now with the DOJ, to limit the budget and cap the amount of spending. And so we need the kind of leadership from the administration and certainly the council to be able to hold the DOJ and that process accountable and say, we want you to conform to the guidelines that the Attorney General, the federal Attorney General, put in place. But we need to send the DOJ back to Washington and give our police officers the support that they need to be able to do their job. One of the goals that I'll have is to make sure that there's a uniformed police officer in every neighborhood, on the west side, that everywhere you go, you see a uniformed police officer.
Mr. Lewis, your time is up.
All righty. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
So there was something else that I wanted. Once again, I was going to say something, and I certainly can't remember what it was. My big message is to get out and vote. We just are really, we can't do anything if we don't vote. And so please vote. Please make sure your neighbors vote. Please make sure that when you go grocery shopping, you ask the person in line if they have a plan for voting, and share with them that they can view this video on YouTube and inform themselves. It looks like that our next candidate, Philip Ramirez, City Council District 5, is not here, but the person after him, the person after him, Cynthia Borrego, is here. And so, Councilor Borrego, if you are ready to speak, I may ask you to go ahead and go early. And we still have about a few seconds before the official 7:37. Well, actually, I'm going to go ahead and just start you with 7 minutes right now, Councilor Borrego. Thank you for stepping forward.
Oh, well, thank you, everyone, for being here this evening. Thank you to Wascona. Thank you to Kathy Adams and Melissa Sanchez for hosting this candidate forum. I'm Cynthia Borrego. I'm a native New Mexican, born and raised and educated and retired from the city of Albuquerque all my life and the state of New Mexico, very proudly. Currently, I serve as your president for the Albuquerque City Council representing District 5. I'm a small business owner, immediate past president of the Rio Grande Credit Union, a $500 million credit union. I have served on the New Mexico Para Board for 8 years. 2 of those years, I was the chairman. We managed a $14 billion fund at the time. I worked as a city planner for over 28 years and managed the Metropolitan Redevelopment Agency before I left and retired. I worked as I also am a 2-time UNM graduate, earning a bachelor's degree in education and a master's in public administration with an emphasis in public budgeting. I have certificates in real estate, investing in international funds. I also have some background in diversity training, and I served on an EEO regional board with Santa Fe, Albuquerque, and Sandia Labs. I will tell you that I'm running for this position again because I love Albuquerque. I think it is the best place in the world to live. I've been offered jobs in Los Angeles. I've been offered jobs in Georgetown, Texas, and I didn't take them. I stayed in Albuquerque. I always kind of joke as I helped build the city, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud to having helped. I want to continue to do that. I belong to the New Mexico Municipal League, the American Planning Association, since 1982, by the way, the Richland Hills Architectural Review Committee, and I'm chair of the School of Public Administration Advisory Board. I'm proud of all of those things. I'm also a member of St. Jude Catholic Church. I have endorsements from the Albuquerque Fire and Rescue, the Central Labor Council, AFSCME, the Carpenters Union, Rio Grande Sierra Club, and Planned Parenthood. And I'm extremely proud of those endorsements. I will tell you that I have also funded a Volcano Vista wrestling team and have worked with the wrestling team since it started at Volcano Vista and have watched it grow. I'm really excited to tell you that those kids are thriving because of that funding. My priorities are, I hope I didn't go out for just a minute, but for some reason my computer had a little glitch. I have a lot of issues that I'm working on as your current president, and I believe that we're on the right path to move Albuquerque forward. We are in a place right now that we've never seen before because we are in a regional place of opportunity. And I think that these challenges are challenges that I take on full force. I will tell you that crime is out of control and it is unacceptable. And we need strong leadership to work on our crime. But I will also tell you that I have consistently funded to increase APD's budget. In 2020, we had a budget of $213.5 million. In 2021, which was during the pandemic, our budget was $212.1 million for APD. In this year, it was $2,022.6 million. So I'm very proud of increasing our APD's budgets. We've balanced our budget successfully, a $1 billion budget over the last couple of years, including while I was the president, without layoffs during COVID, one of the hardest times in the world. So I'm ready to take on this challenge again. My top priorities are addressing public safety. As I mentioned, crime is, out of control, and we know that. But I'm going to also point to this article. I have two articles here from the Journal, and I'm happy to send those to the Wascona. One says Albuquerque's crime takes a big jump. This is in 2016. And the second article that I have are the FBI stats. It says FBI crimes increased sharply in Albuquerque in 2016. I will just mention that that was during the time of my opponent being the president of the city council. So this crime trend did not just start, and it's not going to finish quickly because we are working on it to fund our officers, to make sure that we have enough officers on the street. I am going to focus on recruitment and retention in this next go round. I think it's really important because we are in the DOJ decree right now, unfortunately, on the CASA. And I have actually sat in meetings with the monitor and told him myself that Albuquerque is not an open checkbook. And I will continue to tell them that. I think that right now, what we need to look for are areas that we can challenge the federal court and let them know that where we're in compliance and where we can challenge some areas that would help us dig ourselves out of something that the past administration and the past city council got us into. So I will tell you that I'm proud to say that community policing is something that I have continuously worked on since I was a city planner, and I support wholeheartedly. I have worked in a bipartisan manner regarding that, and I value our police officers 150% and our public safety. I am currently working on a bill that is going to City Council at our next meeting. It's M11 to help reduce recidivism, and it is going to the state legislature. I'm working with our legislators. I think it's important to just say to you that, you know, crime is out of control, and we all know that. And the policies that we're putting in place now are going to help end that.
Thank you, Councillor Borrego. Your time is up and you ended just at the right time. So thank you so much for being here. And
Thank you.
and we're just thank you to all of the District 5, Mr. Lewis and Cynthia Borrego, who came to speak. Sorry that Mr. Ramirez did not make it, but I've sent him an email. And I do want to mention before we start with our APS board candidates, that if you go to the website of the New Mexico Secretary of State, you can get the email, the campaign email for all of these candidates, and you can comment to them, send them an email or comment to them by using the either emails that are publicly available on the New Mexico Secretary of State website. And I would urge you to do that. So we're running a little bit ahead, but our 3 city APS board, District 5 APS school board candidates are here. And I think that we're going to start with Emma Jones. Emma, you can unmute yourself and you can, oh, there you are. And so Emma, I'm going to go make sure that you're unmuted, and I'm going to go ahead and start your 7 minutes.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay.
I can. Okay. So your 7 minutes start now, ma'am.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Emma Jones. Thank you so much for hosting this candidates forum today. I'm really excited to be here to talk with you all. So a little bit about me. I'm a proud Luqueña. I was born and raised in the South Valley and on the west side here in Albuquerque. I attended APS schools, Pajarito, Polk Middle School, and Albuquerque High School. And then eventually I graduated from Freedom High School. And growing up, my mother, she struggled with addiction. My father, he worked 2 jobs for 30 years. And in many ways, I had to overcome so many barriers and challenges that made my education really difficult to navigate. And in many ways, I had to navigate those alone. I internalized those barriers and allowed myself to believe that for some reason that I just didn't really belong in education. I didn't see myself as an academic. And one day when I was literally living out of the trunk of my sister's car and I was homeless, I decided maybe it'd be easier if I just stopped showing up. And it was a mistake. I was so fortunate though that I had access to caring teachers, to counselors, to community leaders that helped connect me to wraparound services that helped me not only get back into school, but graduate in time and even go on to college, where I was able to earn a pretty prestigious scholarship called the Daniels Fund Scholarship that allowed me to go to any school that I wanted to in the country on a full ride scholarship. And I went to the University of New Mexico, where I studied secondary education, because teaching is pretty much like the only thing I've ever really wanted to do ever since I was a young girl. And during my time at the University of New Mexico, I had a great opportunity to get engaged in my community. I was fortunate to get a job with the Enlace Statewide Collaborative, which is an organization that is very rooted in Albuquerque public schools and across the state in public schools. I was a part of the Enlace Los Compañeros program, where I was a mentor and tutor. I had a caseload of 15 young people that I worked with in the schools. We even taught a class actually when I worked at Washington Middle School, but I had a caseload of 15 students every year, and I was in that program for 3 years, and I worked at 4 different high schools during that time. And that was my first experience working in APS schools. I believe I'm the only candidate that has ever actually worked in APS schools, but that was really eye-opening for me, because it was a reality that majority of the students that were going to those schools were navigating some of the same barriers that I was navigating when I was in school. And also when I was in college, it was the first time that I had an opportunity to take an ethnic studies class. And for that was like an aha moment for me, where I see myself in academia, and I seen that not only could I be a role model to these young people as somebody who dropped out but went back into school, but that people like me could really be engaged and be a part of education. And it wasn't because our families didn't want us to be there. There were systemic issues and barriers that created challenges that made it difficult for people like us to graduate and go on to college. So I was also really fortunate that I got to get involved in organizations where I got to actualize that and move to action and get involved in policy advocacy. And that being like having my voice feel heard and being engaged, it made me not just want to be a part of like seeing things happen. It wanted me to be a part of making those decisions happen in my community. And that was just inspiring. And I never wanted to run for public office. APS is the school board is the only thing that I've ever cared to run for, because I've seen firsthand how the decisions at the board impact the community, impact children and young people on like every single day, and teachers as well when I worked in the schools. But it was also around that time that I became a young mother. And it was that like being a mother became the passion and commitment that kind of just helped motivate me and want me to continue to pursue my career. And so I eventually left the University of New Mexico as I became a mother and started my career in nonprofit management. And I have 15 years of experience managing nonprofits now, and that includes overseeing budgets, staffing, fundraising millions of dollars. But more importantly, much of my professional life was working with APS schools on developing educational policy that I engaged young people and their families in being a part of. And I have some examples of that. I was a part of co-authoring the family engagement policy with Families United for Education that was passed by APS board in 2013. I also helped lead a process where we engaged 500 young people across the state to write a student bill of rights. And the young people like used all that data and wrote it themselves, and we advocated together and got it passed as a statewide memorial in 2011, which was really empowering and amazing for young people. But it's also something that many people point to in APS to say, this is what rights our young people still deserve to this day. So that was an amazing process for me to be a part of. And I've also worked in youth employment. So when I worked with the Southwest Organizing Project, I co-founded the Youth Employment Summer Institute. And that's where we hired 80 young people, and we did this for 40 years. At the time, we were the largest employer of young people in the state. And we train young people and place them at multiple organizations where they were able to develop job skills, build a resume, but also they were able to like serve as a hub where they would continue to do organizing and to be involved in communities and nonprofits. So I've been a part of many, since then, I've been a part of so many coalitions, organizations, like Transform Education New Mexico Coalition, which is developing policy recommendations based on the Yaz Martinez versus State of New Mexico lawsuit. I've been a part of doing restorative justice and anti-racism trainings for APS schools. But all that professional experience aside, more than anything, I'm a mother. I'm a mother with a child who's in APS schools. My kiddo is in the 8th grade. I'm also going to have another kiddo that's going to be in schools in the next couple of years, and they're struggling. My kiddo has been struggling, particularly after the pandemic. And that's kind of what motivated me to want to run during this time, because even though I knew the landscape and I've seen how it's impacted firsthand in the schools in my professional life as a mother, it's been really eye-opening and different. So that is what really kind of motivated me. The stakes are really high for my kiddo. In many ways, it's life or death for them because they struggle with mental health, as many young people have been over the pandemic. On the board, I want to be a champion for making sure that young people's voices are heard, that teachers are supported, and that we bring multicultural, multilingual education into the curriculum, because that's where I've seen myself be engaged, and it helped me stay involved. And I want to keep doing that when I'm on the board. But this is more than about building.
Your time is up. And so I'm going to have to ask you to stop, but thank you so much.
Can I finish my last sentence?
Pardon me. Yes, you may finish
Okay.
your last sentence.
This grassroots campaign is more than me about building political power. It's about my kids' livelihood, and it's about my community. So that's all. Thank you so much.
So I want to alert our school board candidates to the chat box. There was just an interesting question right at the end about students involved in sports activities. And I would urge you to take a look at that question. And if you are interested, perhaps you can type in or send me an answer to that question, and we will make sure that that information gets back to the Westside Coalition membership. So that being said, I am going to go ahead. I think our next candidate is Crystal. And Crystal, I'm just going to start my timer for 7 minutes, and you can start now.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me and just for taking the time tonight. Again, my name is Crystal Tapia Romero, and I am honored to have the opportunity to speak to everyone. I am a lifetime resident of Albuquerque. I grew up here on the west side. And the benefit with that, I actually went to Chaparral Elementary, Susie Rails Mormon, John Adams Middle School, and I'm a proud graduate of West Mesa High School. I was a choir girl at West Mesa, and it's incredible just to see myself go full circle of growing up within the district and now having the opportunity to serve my district directly. And I'm just excited to be able to do that. My husband and I together, we have 3 children. We have a 22-year-old, an 18, and a 6-year-old. So we have them on all sides of the bar there, from beginning, middle to end. And our 2 oldest right now are actually both attending UNM. And, you know, when I look at getting involved in APS and the opportunity to be able to speak here, I'm going to be very honest with you tonight in this time that I have. I'm going to shoot you straight. That's my style. That's the way I've always worked. Not a lot of fluff, not a lot of fill in, but just let me get raw with you and tell you who I am, what I'm about, and why I'm doing this. You know, I have been in education my entire career. For over 20 years, I have served in early childhood education. I am one person who's had the direct experience of serving in the classroom, where I've had my own students. I've been a teacher. I've been able to work with families and really engage them in a way where we could have positive outcomes within the classroom. Currently now, I am a small business owner. I actually serve with having early childhood education programs within Albuquerque. And I'm proud of what I do. I'm proud because we are able to produce great outcomes. We are able to show what it takes to have successful teachers and to be able to develop those relationships when that seems to be a huge challenge, you know, throughout the district. I'm someone who also has served on many nonprofit boards. I currently serve as the policy chair for the New Mexico Child Care and Education Association. I have served as treasurer. I have had the opportunity to currently also serve on ELAC, which is the Early Learning Advisory Committee, Early Learning Advisory Council for the state of New Mexico for our governor. I have sat on that board now for about a little over 3 years, and I bring some great insight on what we do from the early childhood sector and to show how we've been able to have some great outcomes overall in terms of how our children are producing, you know, to be able to bridge that gap and show how we can be successful going forward. Additionally, I'm currently and still I'm a grant writer. I've had the opportunity to oversee hundreds of millions of dollars within a budget, to be able to look at every line item and be able to dissect exactly where the holes are and be able to be profitable going forward. Additionally, you know, I've been in advocacy for many years. I advocate on a federal level, on a local level, you know, and of course a state level. And school board isn't something that I just said, okay, let's see what's next. I'll tell you this, advocacy and children are what I do. This is what I've done for over 20 years. It comes natural to me. I love working with children. I love seeing the outcomes that we can have. And I love being able to get in there directly and being able to put my hand there and say, you know what, we're going to make effective change. When I look at the entire APS board, granted, we can say a dozen things that we need to improve. I would just want to talk to you about my top 3. My top 3, the first one is going to say we need to rebuild trust within our district. I need to say that every family member, every student, every community member can actually trust APS public school. Like right now, to see the different struggles that we've had, and we can't be able to move anything going forward until you can say for yourself, you trust me. You know, I need to improve our academic outcomes. To know that we're only 30% proficient in our reading and our math scores, I'm sorry. That is inexcusable, and we cannot say that that's going to be the status quo for our students going forward. We need to expect better. We need to require them to do better. We need to hold everyone accountable going forward, from the student in the classroom, from the teachers, from even the family members that are involved. This is a joint effort, and we can't have our public school system failing us. I'll tell you this, if anybody in any organization was producing at a 30% outcome, I guarantee you we would make a change real quick. And we need to do that. We need to stop saying this year after year. We're going to accept this as our good enough. Not anymore, not under my watch. We need to improve graduation rates. You know, we need to make sure our children are successful, give them a why to come to school. You know, what is in it for them? What are the outcomes that they're going to receive? You know, when you're finding out that District 5 has the highest suspension and expulsion rates than any other district within APS, we have a problem. We need to be able to build those relationships with our students, make sure they have a lot of programs that they can be involved in, get to know who they are and what their why is. Suspension is not the answer, because guess what? They go home. They're left unattended, unsupervised, because many times the families are working and doing, you know, everything to juggle a household. The last thing we need is for them to be unhomed, to be at home unsupervised. You know, we want to make sure that we actually get there and we develop the relationships with our students. I want to make sure that we have proper trade programs for students overall. We realize that college is not the path for every student going forward. So then what's the alternative? How do we train them? How do we keep our students here where they need to be? You know, and I want to make sure that we continue to build that the way we're supposed to. You know, additionally, I want to make sure that we're good stewards of our budget. All of us have seen that we've had lawmakers actually take millions of dollars, okay, millions of dollars from Albuquerque Public Schools, and this went unaccounted for several years. That's unacceptable. I'm ready to get in there. I'm asking everybody for their support. I'm going door to door. I'm at every football game, baseball game, you know, meeting with everybody in the community, because this is who I am. I am a West Sider. I love our community. I love what we're doing here. And as I continue to advocate, as I continue to go to everybody, I will proudly represent the West Side, and I will expect outcomes. We will have results, not excuses. So again, I'm Crystal Tapia Romero, and I'm asking for your vote.
Thank you very much. And thank you for so closely watching the clock tonight. We really appreciate it. So once again, I'm gonna get on please get everybody out and vote. This is the first time that I personally have had a chance to hear all the school board candidates speak. And because I worked for Albuquerque Public Schools for almost 30 years, it's real important to me as a community member, and that we do the right thing by our schools. So get out and vote, and use the information that you're learning tonight to share with your neighbors and get them to make a plan to vote. And I want to make sure, I think it's Uchi, right? Right. So Uchi, I'm going to go ahead and start my timer for 7 minutes, and you may start. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Kathy. My name is Uche Maria Ohiri. I am a primary care provider, a nurse educator. I have master's degree in public administration from the University of New Mexico. I understand governmental organization, budgeting, and expenditure. I am an immigrant from Nigeria, a 24-year active member of the West Side community, a human rights activist. I sit on the Human Rights Commission appointed by Mayor Keller. I have raised 2 Black sons who are active on the West Side Community Service. My Daniel son is a 2nd lieutenant in the U.S. Army on active duty. The apple does not fall far from the tree. When one child succeeds, the community benefits. All this is life experience and academic qualifications make me the best candidate to represent District 5 at the board. I am a ward treasurer of the Democratic Party, soon to be the first Black, soon to be the first medical professional on APS board. I have listened with keen interest as everybody is talking about the wraparound services providing mental health. I am the one that does that kind of service. I'm running because of my deeply held belief that public education is a human rights issue. It is not a business. Public education is an equalizer in a democratic society. As an immigrant to this country 24 years ago, only low-paying jobs were available to me. I worked at McDonald's. I worked at the post postal services. I worked as a nursing assistant, but going to school and staying in college. Having graduated, put me to my current position as a primary care provider. I want to see our children graduate from high school, pursue a career or an academic path. My three priorities are to improve the graduation rate of West Mercer High School from 71.6% it is this year to at least 90%. This graduation percent is the metrics by which we judge how APS is doing. 71.6% is not good enough. I want to see and improve on equitable distribution of resources to fund our school, modernize our school with 21st century technology. I want to see smart boards, textbooks, laptops. I want to see that our educators are retained and maintained. I want to see, and I would advocate for an increase of salary of our educators, assistants, and support staff by at least 6%. I want to see and advocate for diversity and inclusion. It is high time a person of color, a Black person, sits at the APS board, and I am that person. I want to see more healthcare professionals. I want to see social workers. I want to advocate for career counselors to help our children bring out the talent in them so they can understand their educational goals, so they can find their passion. I have ties to APS. On several occasions, my cultural organization, the Igbo Union, have made donations to Jimmy Carter School, to the wraparound services by supplying books, supplying coats. I have also personally provided screening hearing tests to students at Cochiti Elementary School. I have personally provided prenatal care to new future students. And these are some of the things I've done for APS. On a daily basis, I see APS students, I provide primary care, I do sports screening, I provide mental health care, I treat depression, I treat anxiety. I have very close ties to the community. I am or was a member of the pastoral council of my church, St. Joseph on the Rio Grande. And as a member of this big church, I oversaw the budget committee and understand fully how budgeting and expenditure goes on. How would I want to improve career readiness or college path for our students? I would like us to make education more fun for our students. We want to see fund more apprenticeship schools so that those who are not geared towards academic can go towards the career path. I'll give an example of a student I know in town here. His name is Forrest Goodluck. His school teacher, Miss Colleen, found him in middle school to be a good performing arts student, groomed this child, and he has so far been a high-flying actor at Hollywood. Forrest had acted in the movie called Revenant with Leonardo DiCaprio. He has also acted in a movie called Cherry with Tom Holland because his instructor, his educator, found him and said, yes, you are good in this area. This is what I want to see in APS school, and this is what I want to pursue. Performing arts, music. Albuquerque is a multicultural and diverse society.
Uchi,
I
I'm
want to see restorative
I'm
justice.
gonna have to tell you that your time is up.
Thank you.
And I hate to interrupt you, but your time is up. So
Thank you.
uh,
Please,
thank
I ask for your votes.
thank you all for being here. This has certainly helped me shape some of my thinking about the election, and specifically, with our most recent candidates, that we had such a great opportunity to hear about our APS school board candidates. Really appreciate your being here. So if anyone has any other, let me check really fast. I really appreciate those of you who in the audience who were very, very careful with not using the chat function to talk about specific candidates or make positive, mostly degrading comments. That's really what we wanted to avoid during this panel. So thanks to you for doing that. And thanks to everybody for being here. And I want to remind you that you will be able to go to YouTube if you want to watch the video of this, and make a plan to vote. Make a plan to vote and talk to your neighbors, your friends, your fellow shoppers, even at a restaurant. Make it a point to ask people if they have a plan to vote, and vote for candidates that we feel are going to do the very best for the West Side. Melissa, would you like to unmute yourself and thank people for being here tonight?
Yes, and well, thank you, Kathy, for really putting this together, and to Wiscona, this was very helpful. I really enjoyed listening to all the candidates, and I'm just really excited on what's to come for the West Side. And it's so great to see so many people attending and also watching the YouTube video. This is a very important election year for the West Side, and we get things done when we come together as a community. So thank you everyone for joining us, and thanks to all of the panelists.
Great. And Melissa's right, together we succeed, and that's what we want as a result from our forum tonight. So thanks everyone for being here. Have a good rest of the evening. Hang up and go have a nice snack or a beverage, and we'll see Westcona people in November. Thanks a lot.